How's it going, everyone? BrewUnited here with Final Fantasy II yet again. This is the third part of the series out of 4, and we are going to demonstrate Cecil the Paladin coming from the underworld and all the way to the moon. To the moon, Alice. All the way. So what's going to happen is we're going to stop just shy of the end game, and we're going to show you all the things in between. Got quite a few fights in this one, if I remember, and they're actually sped up, so it's kind of comical. I'll see if I can annotate what's going on, commentate, annotate, a date, something like that. So we'll see you there. So here we are back in the Tower of Babel. We went all the way to the top of the tower, and we are met with a fourth fiend, I think, Rubicant, and also Dr. Luge. So at this point, they are not aware, or at least Dr. Luge isn't aware that we're there, and soon he will be. So the music it's playing is always, it's a comical character. So Dr. Luge is a little odd one. In fact, when we end up fighting him, which you'll see in a second here, he's pretty easy. And actually the fight's a completely comical fight until he comes back in a different form. So let's take a peek at that. So his companion here is called Balnab, which is a odd name. Bandlab, I guess if you say it backwards. And he basically just attacks Dr. Luge. And, you know, your goal of this is just destroy him. And Indra's very good at it. Just nukes them both, get you to the next scene. And when you defeat him, it basically gets in saying, hey, let's show you my final strength. So his final strength is he's undead. And you end up fighting Dr. Luge, the undead guy. So get everyone jumping. Like Cain, get everyone with their most powerful spell. They just burn through this guy. He's really not a hard fight. It's more of a comical fight, more of a plot. And Dr. Luge is actually at the top of the tower where he is instructing people to do something pretty horrible against the dwarves. So we're about to see that coming up. So you can see here the tower key is really the piece we're going to need. Dr. Luge disappears, and he threatens that, you know, Rubicant's basically doing everything he can with the crystals. At the same time, the annihilation of the dwarves is upon you. So the dwarves are in danger. We're going to go try to save them. We've opened them up, and you notice here there's 3 things that we're going to have to deal with. And you end up fighting them. I cut that out just for sake of time. And what happened is that they've put this cannon into an auto fire as it disappeared. This is one of the saddest parts of the story, beyond kind of teledying and some of the others. You get kicked out, and Yang takes it upon himself to take on the cannon and actually destroy it. And at this point, you think, hey, you know, Yang's gone, and some sad music yet again. So we're on the way leaving the tower, and we are met with that music that can't mean any good, right? It's that evil, kind of sinister, something's coming to get us. And in this case, it's the tower is collapsing. So Golbez has set off some kind of a chain reaction. And thankfully, when you fall, you're met with, look at that. Just in the nick of time. Cid brings back the airship. Just in time. How perfect. So right when Cid saves us with the airship, he obviously just finds out some bad news from the team here that Yang did everything he could. But at this time, they're a little bit more preoccupied with being chased by one of Golbez's ships. And they can't seem to shake them. You know, the modified Red Wings, which seems you're always modifying something to be better, right? It's kind of like the chain in the game. So this part is actually another that really stunned me when I first played the game. Is Cid is ready to sacrifice himself to blow up the hole to the surface. And he jumps off the Enterprise, or is this the Falcon? I can't remember. There's so many ships. Actually, there's only like 2. Come on. That's not too bad. But he blows himself up and seals the hole right where you initially created the one, if you remember that from the second video, the magma key. And here we go, just narrowly escaping the explosion, and we're now in the above world. So we just lost Yang, we've just lost Cid, and you know, even Cain, who not exactly been the best of friends in this game so far, right, is showing that he's also upset. They were originally his friends as well. So now we're going to head back towards Baron. And one of the reasons we're heading back towards Baron is we need the ability for this ship to actually pick up and carry the hovercraft. So it's kind of a plot device to allow us to move to the next part in the game. So the engineers of Sid are well at work here, doing the comical stuff. Fast forwarded it about 4 times just to, give you guys a little bit of a view here on what's going on. So you can hook up the hovercraft, and that's going to be what allows us to get into the next cave to get to Eblon. And we're going to pick up another character here. We've obviously lost one, so we need to pick up another one. Got to have that party filled out throughout the game. And it's actually, we're starting to fill out what will be the characters throughout the rest of the game. So fast forwarded through quite a bit there. We got Edge from the cave. He's a ninja. He can throw things. And as we go to the next tower here, we're met with his mom and dad. And it turns out to be not the type of reunion that Edge wants. So this part was always sad to me as well. I mean, this is a really kind of a depressing part of the game. You're losing a lot of people. Edge and party here are attacking kind of a mutated form of Edge's parents, his mom and his dad, that have been mutated by allegedly Dr. Luge, but it ends up, I think it was Rubicant the entire time, who we met earlier. And then it breaks after you've defeated them into, the sad tale of the Queen and the King telling how much they miss their son and to go on without them. So here we have Rubicant, if I'm not mistaken. And he was a really hard character when I initially played the game. Again, like anything, when you go back and you play these games, they become easier as you've probably got a lot more gaming behind you. And this game, net is pretty rudimentary in its fighting mechanics compared to maybe some of the new ones. And here we have that we've just defeated Rubicant. And where we think we're going to get the crystals back, we end up falling. And here we go. So where we've fallen is actually a spot where we'll end up finding yet another airship. And I think this one is actually the Vulcan. I think I misspoke earlier. And Edge basically says, hey, let's take this one. Even though it's not ours, be happy to be used by us. So we have our new ship. And guess where we're at? Right back, it seems, in the underground from that cave in the tower that we went down. So at this point, if you remember, we have quite a few crystals that have already been taken. There's one left, and it's in the sealed cave. So we talked a little bit on the second video about the sealed cave. The king here basically said that's where we need to go to get the final crystal. So that's the one we need to defend. So we get the Luca key from the king's daughter, and surprisingly, Sid, we find out, survived the fall. So if you actually go here in what looks like a makeshift hospital, you can actually talk to him. And he is not one to lay around. That's something you'll notice as Sid is throughout the Final Fantasy series, not just this game, but all of them. He's kind of the engineer and the crazy guy who makes all the things happen. So he's not going to lay there in bed, despite blowing himself up with whatever type of explosive. Not sure exactly how that works. So let's go here a little bit. And let's fast forward through his little scene here of retrofitting the ship. So we ended up back down in the underworld, and one thing we're going to have to do is to go right back up to the surface. But before we do that, we're going to go to the sealed cave. So the sealed cave is all my kinds of nightmares in games. It's repetition. It's having to fight things that just in the game mechanics are not normal. So here we go to the sealed cave. We have the Luca key. We're able to open the door, and every door in this cave is a fight, or at least a vast majority of them are fights, and they're absolutely annoying fights. So let's show you a little bit about this fight. So a trapdoor seems like one of the more simpler monsters of the game, but it has an effect that basically will search out that character. So in this case, it searched out Kane. It'll skip now to the next person, and it has an insta-kill. Here we just disrupt. Boop, and watch. Done. Everything you fight here is going to be like that. So I actually just fast forwarded to the end because watching these is just an absolute time sink here. So we found the Dark Crystal. Again, Skeksis. And we've got the Dark Crystal, and we're on our way out. And yet again, we're going to have that type of event that really is going to grate you when you play this game. You know, this is kind of like a complete spoiler-rich playthrough. But the evil wall, just absolutely go off on it. You have to do enough damage or it'll just start insta-shotting your characters as well. And this is where, oh, this next part, this drove me so crazy. It's like whenever you get a crystal, whenever you're getting a foothold in this game, something comes in and just takes care of you in a way where, oh, it's so frustrating. I'm actually still frustrated now thinking about what happened. So Kane, who you think is now on your side, is still under the control of Golbez. He gut punches you and he runs off with a final crystal. So you run back to the Castle of Dwarves, and you basically explain, man, guess what? We're horrible at this game of collecting crystals. This is like the worst game that we've ever played, and we've lost them all. So the only thing that you can do now is basically listen to the king, who starts talking about the exact same legend that throughout the game has been playing. You know, one to be born to the light and the dark, the Mysidian legend, and the king here actually didn't realize there's a place called Mysidia because, you know, they're separated by the surface and the underworld. And the story of the big whale comes into play. So when we're talking about in the beginning here, when I talk about going to the moon, you literally go to the moon. So, you know, like my previous video on Phantasy Star, there's some interstellar kind of travel here. Not interstellar. Why am I saying interstellar? I guess that, you know, the movie's stuck in my head somehow. Can't leave. Just planetary travel. You know, really simple. Going to the moon, and in a game where you're fighting with magic and swords, you got the ability to travel. But this is a kind of a technology that's unheard of on the world, and the legend is tied around that. So we're retrofitting the ship right now just to be able to get back to the above world. We're adding this drill that'll allow us to get back through probably the hole we've plugged and blown up, what, twice now? We're going to actually head right back up there with this retrofit on the ship. So Sid at this point is absolutely shot. He's tired. He tried to do everything he could for you, and at this point, you know, hey, rest up, Sid. We'll catch you in a little bit. So heading right back up, right to the same spot. This city is not going to know what's going on. I mean, we're plugging a mountain, we're blowing it up, we're plugging it. It's just chaos for the people that live outside there. And your goal at this point is going to be to head straight to Mysidia, where we started out the game, and to meet with the village elders who run through that poor black mage. Wow. And of course, we go back to, you know, the story of the legend will now come alive. So the tale, the Mysidian legend that you've heard, the one that the king has spoken, they're wishing for this to come true, because that will ultimately mean that the paladin has the ability to save them. You know, so they actually have been wishing for this for quite some time. And if you remember in the game, he actually went up to the tower to wish. So right outside of Mysidia, apparently, is like a huge swirling vortex where this big ship comes out. And that is the Blue Whale. So let's take just a peek at this. And this ship is pretty amazing. I mean, technically right now, but it's an amazing ship to fly between. It's kind of a cool ship to look inside. It's not really the best of ships to fly around the world, because you have to have like a separate loading screen where you're inside the ship, rather than just jumping on one of the Falcon or the Enterprise before. This is not as easy to fly around. But it was an amazing part when you get it in the game. And if you're playing this game after you watch it, like, if there's enough nostalgia built up from the sea, it's such a huge ship. And apparently a crystal here to pilot. So let's activate that, and let's fly between worlds. So like Phantasy Star, here we go. We're getting this this really poor graphics. At the time, it was amazing, though. And you end up in Lunar's Lair. So let's see what this is. This is actually one of the cooler characters in the game, I thought, which was Fusoya. And watch him teleport in. How cool is that? He's like reminds me of Father Time from whatever that Christmas movie was, the way he looks. So you find out through quite a bit of dialogue here. So Fusoya is one of the Lunarians, and it's like an ancient race of people who came here, or came to, the solar system that seems exactly like ours, by the way. Came to this solar system and actually populated the Earth, and helped watch the evolution of the people there, and then came to the moon and basically slept, to keep out of their way. They weren't ready for them, I think, is kind of the plot. You also find out that Cecil is a little bit more than your average person, and Fusoya, if I'm not mistaken, is actually your uncle, through your father actually being the one who gave up the rest of his life force, or the light, to actually give you the paladin status. So when you went to the top of Mount Ordeals, that light that greeted you was actually the remainder of your father's powers. And that was the character. I think it was Kluya. Yeah, Kluya was the one. So here it is telling the story of Cecil. And also you find out that you're not the only one that is a son of Kluya. You actually find out the news that Golbez is actually your brother. So, huge plot twist here. The person who you just think is this horrible person, and he is a horrible person, is actually your brother. So it adds like that little bit of extra drama in this game. In the game here, as I said in previous games, the CGI wasn't there. You read this, and you got emotionally attached when at this time in gaming. It was great. So Fusoya joins your party. He's a caster of all things. He's a complete high-level white mage, complete high-level black mage, and he can really tear some things up. And as soon as you fly back to Earth, you're greeted with the calamity that all the crystals being brought together have created. And you'll see it here. It's this monster that's been created from the Tower of Babel. And the Giant of Babel, that's what it's called. That's come here. And at this point in the game, bring it. I mean, what else can you throw that's bigger? Alright, so we've fought all these Fiends of Elements, we've fought Golbez, we've had characters die, mortally wounded, whatever. And let's have a creature that's as big as mountains and fires these circular laser explosion type things, out of it. And, why not? At this point, just bring it. It's bigger than our ship. We would be completely tiny compared to this thing. It's just like, I feel like in Final Fantasy Beyond this, like every game tries to up I wouldn't say the ridiculousness of the creatures that you fight, but they have multiple forms. It goes from like one little person, like Final Fantasy X to me, it blew me away with how many different forms of something that you have to keep fighting. So the initial form is like this tiny little person that's about the same size as you, and it keeps morphing till it's this ridiculous thing you have to defeat. So this is really cool. You've got the build-up of the people you've met. I don't know how the dwarves got there with tanks, but, hey, just kind of move beyond that, everyone. Come on. Don't let me influence you. And Yang's back, so he didn't die. All right. Why not? We're fighting these massive things. So Yang's in tank. We've got the airships coming back here in just 1 second. And everyone is in for this. They know what's at stake here. Basically, what's at stake is good and evil. So good comes together to yet again in the Final Fantasy games and many other games like it, is to actually fight evil. So the Mysidians have their own airship. You got Cid back. I was expecting at this point, to be honest, when I initially played the game, that Tello would show back up. But I think he's actually the one. He died. I wonder who else actually died. Did anyone else die? Like, permanently? Anna and Tella, I think, are the two. If you remember any of the other ones when you watch this, pop in the comments. I'd love to be corrected, because I'm often wrong and never in doubt. That's kind of my motto. So at this point, you've done enough damage to the giant that it's time to get inside and see if we can destroy the core, because we have a working knowledge of computers and CPUs and that type of thing. Or do we? I don't know. So here we are on the ship with Cid, who is once again coming to the rescue. We're going to head into the Giant of Babel, and a couple of little things in here that you have to take care of. One is the core, but you also notice that Golbez and Enzimus, through him, have actually restored some former foes. So that it's a little teaser coming up here. You're gonna have to fight. If you have never played this game, you're gonna have to fight some people that you've already defeated, but who come back. And I think this kind of demonstrates how powerful you've become. So as you walk through here, let's go to the point that I'm talking about. Look, guess who's back? Rubicant. And is it Vilvalis, I think? And Kazano. And I cannot remember. I'm like starting to forget who the people are now at this point in the game. But the four fiends, right? Yeah. Mylan was the first one, see? So when we first became, or just before we became a paladin, he tried to stop us. Mylan with his zombies and everything. So Rubicant, being, the good guy, heals you up. Brings all your magic back. And gets you into a fight. So at this one, you have to just go through all four of them. I went ahead and defeated them all. Because basically, it's just a grind to kill them all. It's actually not hard. You're a lot more powerful now. And you just kind of blow through them. Not hard at all. And as I said, Master Zemus is kind of becoming the real reason that Golbez is evil. So Zemus is the final character that you're going to have to fight at the end of it. So here we are fighting the CPU, because that's not kind of a crazy concept in a fantasy game, right? This one's a little annoying. You've got to take it out in a certain order. Basically, you destroy the bottom one, and that stops the healing. And then your goal is to basically burn down the last one before you kill this little, the final top one there. If you don't do it in that order, you're not going to have a good time. Trust me. It's going to be quite a mess. So, with your party's extensive knowledge of computer repair or destruction, you take care of the CPU, which is the brain of the Giant of Babel. And at this point, you stopped yet another calamity taking on the world. And who better to show up but Golbez again. And at this point, Fusoya realizes who he is and is able to do something pretty neat here. He's actually correcting the power of Zemus, kind of breaking the hold over Golbez. And at this point, I mean, how can you trust Golbez at this point? I mean, if Cain hasn't done enough to ruin your day, why would you trust, Golbez at this point? But he's coming to his senses here, which is exactly what you wanted to happen. And Fusoya is able to remind him of who his dad was. Now, how does he remember Kluya, but Cecil doesn't? I don't understand that. That's something that maybe I need to read up on. Is, maybe they wrote a story that I can read and understand that. So the net of this part is Golbez thinking he's a lot more powerful than many other people, and also Fusoya have taken it upon themselves saying, hey, we're going to head to the moon back to the moon, and we're going to actually go after Zemus to try to end, what's been going on here. So that's an interesting take that, Golbez comes back, and all of a sudden, not only is he your brother, but he's also going to be fighting with Fusoya to try to take him out. So Fusoya reaches out to Golbez and say, hey, you can't do this alone. He belongs to the race that I'm part of, and I'm going to come help you. So although he's laying down now, I don't know what he did there. Maybe he gave up part of his life, or somehow tired himself out by, must have been some super secret spell. But he gets up and he heads out, so no harm, no foul. So Cecil at this point's had quite a bit just dumped on him, right? He's just found out, even though I mentioned it earlier, he found out Golbez is his brother, and not only is Golbez his brother, but he's, off to go kind of save the day. So at this point, the Tower of Babel is falling down. Not the Tower of Babel, the Giant of Babel. Why do I keep saying that? Keep messing they're all the things up today. So who else shows up but our good friend, oh wait, not our good friend Cain, who's betrayed us, I don't know how many times now, twice? And now he's like, all right, well, let's talk later. I'll explain why I'm this complete wretch. And, you escape. And at this point, you watch the traditional explosion of any big evil thing in the game and the noise that comes with it. So at this point in the game, you're back on the Blue Whale. You're hearing Cain explain, that he's lost consciousness again, and, a little bit of mind control. And this is really, you're on a march to the end of the game. This is not that far off your ability to beat the game. And some of the things that I did back at this point was to make sure that I went to the Cave of Bahamut. I went to that. I went to the Land of Summon Monsters, went to the Sylvan Cave, picked up a lot of the summons. So this really is a point of reflection in the game. Have I done all the things to make myself as good as possible to complete the game? I'm going to cheat a little bit near the end of the game, because, this is a 20-hour game, trying to cram it into 2 videos that I initially did, and then ultimately 4. I wanted to show you a completely decked out crew, and this is the final crew that you'll go through the game with. So you now have your final party. Cain's back. You've got Rydia, you've got Rosa, you've got Edge, and Cecil, and you have a really good balance of attack, utility, and casting, as you know. At this point, you've got very limited attack through Rosa, except for the spell White, which I haven't acquired yet, but in my little screen magic I'm going to show you in a bit, I'm going to change my characters from level 40 and not really having all the things to level 99 and having all the things in the game. And that's actually through the 60 odd hours I played back in the summer in 91. When I had 60 odd hours to play a game. Does anyone listening to this have 60 odd hours to play a game anymore? I don't know. I just don't. I wish I did. But, full-time job, family, kids, it catches up with you. So Cecil, sent Rosa off. Edge is also doing the same thing to Rydia. They're sending both of them away to keep them safe. And Cain and Cecil and Edge plan on heading to the moon to help Fusoya and also Golbez. That's a pretty powerful group, but, how trashy is this? The 2 people that have been absolutely with you, through and throughout, Rydia and Rosa. Well, let's just kick them out. Us guys will go take care of it. What type of trash is that? I don't know. So here we go, flying back to the moon to really head towards the end of the game. You can keep flying back and forth. You're not trapped once you go here, so, don't feel too bad. You can still go down to the underworld. You can complete all the different pieces. So you're not trapped in one way or another, but you are on a collision course at the end of the game. So the further you go, you'll actually find a point where you've gone too far and you're fighting the final boss, Zemus. So Careful of that. So obviously Rosa and Rydia are not taking this the way that Cecil had planned. You know, it's like, oh, I just go away. You know, you two. They're not going to do that. They've got to be part of this. You know, this wouldn't be the game it is if the game allowed that. So, you know, here we go again. The Cecil and Rosa love fest that Kane has hated throughout the thing is back on. And, you know, this is the final formation of your party. Again, you don't lose anyone from here. You don't gain anyone. You can't swap them out. These are the four that you have right now. And Rydia, surprise, surprise, did the same thing. She didn't run away. So you've got your 5 characters that you ultimately will play through the end of the game with. So the end of the game is upon us. I'm going to have that as the 4th video. I'm actually just going to talk at the beginning of that, and I'm not going to go through the entire thing. So what I'm going to show you here is when you go back to the moon, you end up going into a complete group of labyrinths that will ultimately get you to the final boss, Zemus. There's a ton of items like this. So this is what I was talking about earlier. This is Masamune. That is a weapon for Edge. So you're finding all of the final weapons here. And I'm just going to fast forward through that so you can see this fight complete. And you get all the best weapons, all the best gear is basically starting from here on out. So there we have. It's the Murasame. Okay, so let's cut the video at this point. And again, thanks for watching this so far. Love a like, and I would love for you to stick around for the 4th and final part. And again, if you really like this content, would love to sub, please do so. And we'll see you on the 4th video.